Well, hey there. Welcome to the Ridge Community Church Online. It's great to be with you today, wherever you are joining us. My name is Tyler, and I serve as our online campus pastor. And our vision as a church is to bring the hope of Jesus into every home. We're coming to you from our online studio here in Greenfield, Wisconsin. And wherever you are joining us today, we are so glad that you are. And if you're new with us, hey, I want to invite you to join us in today's chat. You can connect with us there. And when you join us in the chat, whether you're on live.theridgecc.com or on YouTube, we're actually going to have a team right there that's ready to welcome you, ready to guide you through service, as well as answer any questions that you may have. So go ahead and say hi to them. If you're joining us later on demand, welcome. And go ahead and leave a comment wherever you're joining us. And we monitor those comments all throughout the week, so we'll be in touch with you with any questions that you may have as well. Now, fall is here, and one of the things that I love the most about fall is that football, it is back. In fact, over the last couple of weeks, I've watched a lot of football games. I've watched my nephew play his varsity football underneath the Friday night lights. That was a lot of fun. We've seen some upsets already in college football, and then the NFL. I mean, it's back in full force, and okay, it hasn't been as fun for me to watch. I'm a Bears fan living in Wisconsin, and so, yeah, last week was a little rough for me, and I got all those text messages. Thank you guys for sending those. But football's a lot of fun, but whether you're a football fan or not, we realize football is this team sport that you're relying on everyone to do their job. I mean, if you think of one play on the offense, you need the offensive line to protect the quarterback from the defense. You need the quarterback to make the right throw, and then you need the wide receiver to make the catch. I mean, being on a football team, it's this picture of you needing to do your job, and you're relying on others to do it as well. Reason why I bring this up is that this is the picture of what our lead pastor Mark is going to help us understand as we go through today's message on the great disconnect. In fact, this is how we can experience the benefits of following Jesus. And it's so big that we're actually going to jump right into the message right now. We're going to head over to the auditorium and join Mark, and then I'm going to be back and share with us how we can take his challenge he's going to lay out with us before we log off today. Let's head over to the auditorium and hear from our lead pastor Mark.
Well, have you ever tried to do something and you just felt lonely doing it? It's like, am I the only one doing this? Now, do you know when I feel this, and you know when I've experienced this? Every fall in the state of Wisconsin, in fact, every fall in this church during football season. I mean, every fall I come in here and I come in here and I got to see all the Packer jerseys and the Packer outfits, and then you go out there and then your kids are wearing that stuff and they're going into Ridge Kids, and I'm like, do we not have any standards around here with the kids even, you know? They're being brainwashed at an early age, and I just think about, you know, am I the only one that's trying to follow the team that Jesus loves, the Steelers? And so I am here, and then every year, and this happens every year, it's been happening for 15 years, and then I get this pressure to conform. They're like, you keep here, I'm telling you, you'll become one, you'll become one, you'll become one. And here's the thing, the more it's told to me, the more I don't want to become one. I mean, it's just, every fall, I just feel so lonely because I feel like the only one that's trying to follow the Steelers. Now, all joking aside, have you ever just felt lonely in trying to follow Jesus? It's like, am I the only one? Am I the only one doing this? I mean, honestly, I have. I mean, I finally look around, I'm like, who else is doing this? Because I feel like I'm the only one. And maybe you felt this before. It's like you're single and you're dating and you're like, where are all the Jesus followers, you know? Because I feel like I'm the only one that's trying to do this. Or you're at work and, you know, you're just trying to follow Jesus. It's like everybody's going in the opposite direction. You know, you're talking to people and you tell them that you're going to church, you know, and they just look at you like you're weird, like, you know, no one goes to church nowadays. I mean, it's just, you feel like you're the only one doing this, and it just feels like kind of a lonely journey at times. And let me just kind of throw this on top of things. It's kind of a good measure. You ever thought, man, following Jesus is really hard? I mean, it just kind of feels like you're swimming upstream, you know? It's like you're going this way, and then everybody else is going this way. And, you know, you get criticized, you get made fun of, you get looks, you know, you get canceled. I mean, following Jesus is both lonely and it's hard. But let me just add this. If you would be willing to stay the course, and that's the key part, if you'd be willing to stay the course, it is well worth it. Now, today we are in week 4 of our series we're calling The Great Disconnect. And over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about this gap between what we've been told we would experience if we follow Jesus and what we are actually experiencing in following Jesus. And so the goal of our series is to talk about some ways to close that gap. Now, here's something interesting that I have noticed about the state of Christianity in our country as it relates to this disconnect that we're talking about. There aren't millions of people in our country leaving churches going, well, I don't believe in God anymore. However, the reason for all the disconnect that we're seeing in our country is because people have disconnected from people. And they've disconnected from other Jesus followers who are going in the same direction that they are, or wanting to go in the same direction that they are. And because it can be lonely and because it's hard, it makes that gap so much easier to continue to grow and to continue to grow until it gets to this point where that gap just seems way too big. And so what I want to do is I'm going to introduce and give you my big idea up front, kind of the big thought for today, and then I'm going to spend the rest of my time just unpacking this thought. And so here's the big idea for today. If you want to connect with God deeply, and we've been defining that throughout this series, and we've been saying we've been calling them just promised benefits of following Jesus. That you experience the freedom that comes from being forgiven. That you experience God's presence and power in your life. That you actually know and live out God's purposes for your life. That if you want to experience God deeply, or connect with God deeply, you must, and this is a must, connect in community. That following Jesus is lonely and it's hard. I mean, last week, if you were here, I talked about the whole idea of denying yourself. And it's one of those things, I think it's one of the hardest things to do. In fact, no one after last week and said, hey, can you do a series on that? Because I'd love to talk about that more, you know? Nobody did that. And here's the reality. You can't deny yourself by yourself. And so this is why, and this is the good news for us, that following Jesus was never meant to be a solo sport, that it was meant to be a team sport. And we say you must connect in community. We define community as smaller groups of people that gather together in what we call ridge groups. Now, today what I want to do is I want to look at a few verses from the New Testament book of Hebrews. And if you're new to the Bible, the book of Hebrews is actually found near the end of the Bible. We actually don't know who the author is of this book. But as you read this book, you'll see just throughout, time and time again, the author talks about why community is essential in following Jesus. Here's what one time he writes this. He says, let us, notice, not you, not me, but we. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess. Now, this word unswervingly, it means to go straight, not to weave in and out, to stay the course. My kids, when they were little, we went to a NASCAR event in Daytona. I was there to see my parents. And they were kind of enamored with when the cars were under caution, and you'll see them kind of driving, and the racers always kind of do this with their car to kind of test the steering out, you know. And so they thought that was kind of cool. And so what I did is that I would take times, like when I was driving with them, not on the highway, of course, when I was driving with them, that I would just start to do this and go back and forth, and they thought that was kind of a really cool thing. Now, Donna hated it, okay? I mean, she couldn't stand it. And then I would do that when they were older, and then when they were older, it didn't have the same effect. They would kind of look at me and go, what are you doing, Dad? And I'd be like, I'm just testing my steering. They're like, it works. It's fine. And Donna would be like, knock it off. And so I would just kind of swerve back and forth. Now, here's the thing. When we're driving on the highway and we see someone swerving, we don't go, well, let's get up behind that person. No, what do? We kind of back off because we know what they're doing is dangerous. And we know that if they keep swerving, that someone would probably get hurt. Well, the writer of Hebrews tells us the same thing is true in our faith journey. And the challenge of this, and I just kind of mentioned this early, that the current of life is always pulling us to swerve. You know, it's kind of like this. Okay, I know Jesus wants me to do this, but you know what? No one else is doing that, you know, and they're happy and they don't seem to have any issues. Or, you know, I have problems in my life and I'm following Jesus and I'm looking around at other people and you know what? They don't have any problems and they're not following Jesus. Life is going okay for them, and we just keep going down that track, and as a result, we start to swerve. And if we don't stop, eventually, we will swerve our way out of our faith. And so the writer of Hebrews says, together, let's help each other not to swerve, because our temptation and our tendency is to swerve. And then I love how he ends this. He says, let's go back. For he who promised is faithful. In other words, God never swerves from us, even though we swerve from him. And then he continues, and he says, and let us, once again, there you see it again, not you, not me, but we, consider how we may spur one another on. If people have often asked me, hey, if you weren't a pastor, what would you do? And you know what I would do? I would be a coach. I love coaching. I would probably coach basketball or tennis for middle school kids. And I love to just challenge and inspire people and inspire teams to just play at a level that they never thought was possible. And that's what great coaches do. And when the writer of Hebrews says, let's spur one another on, this is that image that the writer has in mind. That every single one of us needs people in our life to challenge us, inspire us on our faith journey. And then not that they need to challenge us, but there are people, a few other people, that need us to do the very same thing for them. And we spur one another on toward love and good deeds. In other words, the goal is to live a life of good deeds. But the reality is, our tendency is we do a little good, and then we start to settle in because we're drawn into a life of comfort. And we just need others, and this is what the writer said, we need others to say, okay, don't settle, don't settle, don't settle, don't swerve. And then he wraps it up with this. He says, not giving up, meeting together. And when he talks about meeting together, he's not talking about in a meeting like this. He's talking about in a smaller gathering type of meeting. And then he says something interesting. He says this, as some are in the habit of doing. And what's interesting about that, something that you never thought about before, is that community isn't just a choice. It's actually a habit in our life. I can still remember when I first became a Jesus follower, and there were some people in my life that just said, hey, you need to develop the habit of starting your day with God. And they, people have different names for it. They call it a spiritual discipline, which always just sounds dry when someone says, okay, I'll develop a spiritual discipline. Thank you very much. Or people call it a devotional life or something along that line. And I thought, okay, I need to do that. And so this person showed me how to do that. And I'll be honest with you, for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I didn't want to. It felt uncomfortable. It just felt weird. I was like, what am I doing this? And, just like I said, what am I getting out of this and all that stuff? But eventually it reached a point where it became a habit in my life. And as a result, the experience changed with it. So much so that it's not only a habit in my life, 20 years later, it's what I call a keystone habit. In other words, I wouldn't be following Jesus without this habit. Community works the very same way in our life. You see, community is a habit that we need to develop. In other words, it takes time for us to develop it. This is why during COVID, for many of you, and maybe others where this happened to, that for many of you, you just stopped going to church altogether, and you didn't intend to. It just stopped being a habit in your life, and as a result, you formed an other habit in the place of that habit. And then he ends up and he says, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, all the more as you see the day approaching. Encouraging one another, very similar to that spurring idea. This is, hey, following Jesus is like swimming upstream. And when you swim upstream, eventually you're going to get tired, eventually you're going to get discouraged, eventually you're going to start to swerve, and we all just need some people in our lives that just says, okay, come on, listen, don't swerve, don't swerve, don't swerve. And so we all need that small group of people who are in our lives that'll help us close the gap and so we can experience all God has for us. Now, I want to spend the rest of my time I have left, and I want to talk about 3 reasons why we don't connect in community. And as a result, we swerve or are swerving, and for many of us, we don't even realize that we do. It's become so normal for us that swerving is just kind of a part of the journey, okay? So I'm going to give you 3 reasons why we don't connect in community. Here's the first one. We've become too conditioned and comfortable being isolated. When we read through the Bible, you will see that there is not a single Lone Ranger Jesus follower, and that includes Jesus himself. But the problem is that many of us, we've just gotten comfortable with being isolated. It's just become a habit in our life. Now, do you know what's facilitated this? The last few years with the pandemic. I mean, with the last few years, many of us, we've gotten cut off from community. And so as a result, we've kind of, stepped back, and now we're just kind of stepped out of community. We're used to kind of living on our own. And you know what? We kind of like it. Let's be really honest. It's kind of like I don't have to deal with people, and I can kind of do my own thing, and I just got my family and all that good stuff. We like it. And so for many of us, outside of the pandemic now, as we kind of a couple years away, we're living still isolated in so many ways. The truth is, many of us go to church online. Many of us, we shop online. Many of us, we get food delivered to our house from restaurants online. Many of us work at home online. And you know what else we can do? We can go grocery shopping online, and all we have to do is we have to pull into a parking lot, pop the trunk open, and you know what? Someone puts groceries in our trunk, and you know what? We don't even have to talk to anybody. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. You're like, man, praise Jesus, I now believe in God, because you know what? I can go to the grocery store and I don't have to talk to a single person. You see, the reality is that we have become comfortable with being isolated. It's convenient for us now, and we love convenience. And as a result, for many of us, this is how we function as a follower of Jesus. And here's what you need to know. If you just come to church here, or you watch online, if you just come to church and then you leave and then you come back, maybe it's the following week or the week after, and then you leave again and then you come back and you just continue, that's kind of your only system for spiritual growth, and you have no strong Christian community in your life. Listen, you just need to know that you are in a very fragile and dangerous spot in your faith journey. You will swerve. And for some of you, the reason why maybe you're just feeling little higher levels of anxiety in your life, the reason that you feel like your life may be a little bit out of sorts, or that your marriage is struggling, or you're dealing with an addiction maybe at a level that you weren't dealing with before. Maybe for some of you, you just feel like, you're distant from God, and it's just like, really isn't working for me. That life is just out of sorts for me. The root cause of most of your issues, not all of your issues, the root cause of most of the issues in your life is due to lack of strong community in your life. Now, I know some of you hear that and you go, come on, Mark, come on, really? Well, listen, this isn't just my opinion. Science backs this up, and the research is overwhelming. Just last month, the American Heart Association released a study, and this study dealt with the dangers of isolation. And so it was this 4-year study, and this 4-year study talked about this connection between isolation, loneliness, and then the outcomes it has on our health. Now, let me just share with you just a couple highlights of the study. Here are a couple things that the study produced. Once again, this is just last month. That isolation, if you're in isolation, 29% increase in heart disease. You have a 32% increase in strokes, 50% increase in dementia. And then this last one is a real heartbreaker for me. Here's the last study, last part of the study. It says there is a direct correlation with depression, anxiety, and struggles with mental health, and we all know the escalation of mental health the last couple years. And struggles with mental health, and those that are isolated, and they're not talking about just living by themselves. You can be married and still isolated. And so we see this, and we wonder why our world is spinning out of control. And this is not only confirmed by the American Heart Association, but the CDC confirmed this. The American Psychological Society and Harvard also confirmed this. In fact, study after study confirms this very thing. What is it confirming? It's confirming that isolation is literally killing us. It's killing us mentally. It's killing us physically. And most importantly, it's killing us spiritually. And for some of us, we're here and we feel just so dry spiritually. We feel so disconnected spiritually because we're isolated from community, and we've become very comfortable in doing so. Now, you might be thinking, well, yeah, but Mark, I'm here, okay? And I'm around people. And listen, that's a good thing. But being in a row, consuming content is not community. Community is when you're a smaller group of people and you meet in a home or some other environment and you're actually doing life with other people. Now, this environment matters, okay? And there's something transformative that God does here that he doesn't do in any other environment. But you can come here and you can consume content and you can leave here going, well, my life is going to be different. And here's my answer to that. Yes and no. Yes, the content has the potential to do that. But if it is not filtered through community, it is not going to do this. You see, if content alone transformed us, I mean, we have access to more content than at any time in world history. And so if content transformed us, we'd all be healthier, wealthier, and happier. So don't fool yourself into thinking content alone can transform us. We got to take that content and we got to filter that through and with other people. And so that's the first reason that we disconnect from community. Here's the second one, is that we believe the lie that no one can relate to my situation. You know, the reality is that every single one of us is facing challenges in our life. And if you're going, not me, I'm good, let me just have a reality check for you. You will, because that's just life. And in our pride, it's so easy to think, you know, my situation is unique. No one is dealing with what I'm dealing with. I mean, no one has dealt with a breakup or divorce like I have. No one deals with the mental health issues that I have. No one has been abused as a child like I have. No one is dealing with the addiction that I am dealing with. Hey, no one is dealing with the kids or the in-laws that I am dealing with. And some of you are sitting next to your in-laws right now. You're like, shh, I know. You know, no one is dealing with the leadership challenges that I am dealing with. And sometimes I wonder if God's just kind of looking at us and going, do you really think that you're that unique that no one can relate to what you're going through right now? Now, personally, I struggle with this very idea. I mean, there are times that I just go to a dark place really, really quickly, and I'm like, oh man, you know, no one understands the pain and the burden of leading a church in this environment. Oh, woe is me, you know, nobody is dealing with the leadership challenges that I'm dealing with. And here's the thing, it's a lie. And the reason it's a lie is that I have some really good pastor friends, some in this area, and they are dealing with the very, very same issues. And for some of you, you're not pastors, but you're leading organizations. And you are dealing with some very, very intense leadership struggles, just as I am. And it's just so easy for us to get in the victim mode. Woe is me, woe is me. I'm the only one dealing with it. You know, I think this is why, that when we, at that moment, that we start to think that no one can relate to our situation is the very point that we start isolating ourselves from other people. You know, this is why the word community, and this is what makes it so powerful. The root word of it is common. And this is the powerful thing, that with community, you get to this point where you have this experience. It's like, you too? Yeah, me too. You too? Hey, you went through that? Yeah, I went through that too. Hey, yeah, me too. And there's a common experience there. Many years ago, or I should say, when Don and I first got married, our first year of marriage was a big struggle. I mean, it was horrible. I've told about this before. We almost didn't make it out of our first year. And one Sunday we were at church. After church, this couple comes up to us, and they said, hey, and they introduced themselves because, you know, we didn't know who they were. And they were like, hey, are you in a small group? And I look at Donna and I thought, she planned this whole thing. I know she did, you know, so I'm a little mad inside because I think she's kind of set me up with this whole thing. And I said, no, we're not in a small group, you know, and they were like, hey, well, you know, we're starting one. Would you like to be in one? And, you know, kind of put us in a, you know, spot like, what do you say? No, you know, no, we wouldn't want to be in your group. So we were like, yeah, we'll be in a group, you know. And I'll be honest with you, I wanted nothing to do with being in a group. And I was talking to Donna about it. I still remember this. And I'm like, okay, you know I don't want to do this, because I don't want to be with a group of people and I don't want to air out all of our issues. Our issues are our issues. You kind of keep it to ourselves, you know, and this is just between you and me and all that good stuff. So the night leading up to our first group, I didn't want to be there, you know, and I remember driving in the car. I said, okay, just pretend that we know what we're talking about, and that we have it all together. And she's like, yeah, but we don't know what we're talking about. I don't know, but you just say Jesus is the answer. If we have to ask any questions, the Bible and whatever, and, just kind of just do that. And just like our marriage is great, and smile and hold my hand every once in a while and stuff. And so just pretend like we have it all together. So we get there. That's exactly what we do, okay? And it was uncomfortable and it was weird because we didn't really know everybody, but we said, okay, we're going to give it 4 weeks. We're going to do 4 weeks. And so, we got to the 4 weeks, and we started to get to know the people in our group. And then we thought, okay, we'll just keep going, whatever that means. And so we kept going. And then one week, we decided to open up about our struggles. And as we're opening up, one of the couples who we just thought like had this perfect marriage, had it all together, they kind of chuckled and they said, well, your story is our story. That exact same thing we experienced. I was like, what? They're like, oh yeah. We almost didn't make it out of the first year. We're like, you too? They're like, yeah, we too. And I tell you, it was then that we discovered and we experienced something that we didn't know that we needed that actually was a catalyst to healing our marriage. And that was community. You see, this is why community is so life-changing for us. Because we begin to experience that our struggles and our doubts and our fears, our swerving, they aren't unique to us. But we all have things in common that are causing us to swerve. Final thing, final reason why we don't connect in community, and this one right here, plain old pride. Deep down, most of us just really believe that, we don't need anyone else, that we can do it on our own. But do you know what's driving that mindset? Not strength, pride. So let me give you 2 what I call truth statements that I have used and I say over and over again that when my pride starts to well up. And these truth statements have brought such freedom to me, and my prayer is that they would do the same through you, because Jesus says the truth will set you free, and I'm telling you, these will set you free if you let them. 2 truth statements about this to deal with your pride. Here's the first one. I don't know everything. I don't know everything. So let's say this together after the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's say it. I don't know everything. Yeah. When I counsel couples who are engaged, and they've asked me to do their wedding ceremony, most of the time I'll give them an assignment. And here's my assignment. Say, I want you to find a couple that has been married 8 to 10 years. Okay, and that when you look at this couple, you go, you know what? They still love each other. They seem to have a healthy marriage. We see what they're doing, and we're like, okay, that's the type of marriage. If they follow Jesus, they love God, love each other, and all stuff. They're not perfect, but they're like, man, we hope that that's where we are in 10 years. And when I give them that assignment, 99% of the time, I get this look like, why would we do that? I mean, we're in love, that's enough. We don't need help with all that stuff. And then I always look at them, and then, kind of talk to them a little bit. Then I finally get to this point. Have you ever been married before? No. Then you don't know what you're doing, and so do the assignment. And I do this with first-time parents as well, and nobody does it, okay? But I tell them to do it anyways. And here's the thing. With every area of our life, this is true, especially with following Jesus. And for many of us, the reason why we don't connect in community, because we think, well, I don't have it all together, and I don't know enough, and all this stuff. Here, let me just say, none of us do. But here's the thing. No matter where you are in your faith journey right now, the next step, you've never been there before. And so the reality is, you don't know what to do either. None of us does. So the first axiom, so to speak, is I don't know everything. And then here's the second one. I need help. I need help. Once again, let's say this together. 1, 2, 3. I need help. Yeah, we do. We need help. And let me just say this. As a follower of Jesus, I screw up, I sin, I mess up, I need help. And you know what? I don't know all of you, but guess what? You do too. And so let me release you of the pride by just saying, none of us knows everything, and every single one of us needs help. It's the beauty of community. It's why we need community. And it's also why, if you're not in it, then you just need to know you will only go so far on your faith journey. So here's my challenge for every single one of us. My challenge is this. I want you to join a Ridge group. I want everybody to join a Ridge group. And as I say that, let me just as your pastor, let me just kind of speak into us as a church for a minute. I want every single one of you to be at a service on a regular basis, whether it be a Thursday night or one of the Sunday morning services or watching online. I want every single one of us, because there's just something that God does when all of us are together. We just grow together. We have different experience together. We learn together. But then I want the next step for every single one of us. I want every single one of us to filter that learning and apply it in the context of community. And I tell you, if there's one thing, if there's a biggest concern I have for our church, it's this very topic right here. Because I know this, 50% of you don't have this. And every disconnect story or every fall away from the faith story, and this is not, well, I've stopped believing, okay? This is I've stopped moving story. They're all the same. And here's how they go. It is, I never got connected with other people, or I was connected and then I stopped connecting. And then eventually it led on a journey where they just swerve themselves out of there and they're no longer connected. In other words, as we've been saying throughout this series, the gap just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. They're all the same. This is why I want every single one of us in a Ridge group. And listen, I understand all the excuses. You know, the most common one is, I don't have time. You got kids and activities and all that stuff. But let me just challenge you with something. You don't have time not to make time for a Ridge group. Because do you know what takes time? Marital issues, getting into a relationship that everybody around you knows is heading to a bad place, but you do it anyways because you don't have people that have the freedom to spur and challenge you on. You know what else takes time? Kid issues, spiritually falling away. Listen, being in a group, it doesn't take away your time. You're going to see that community actually gives you time. Here's another excuse. I'm introverted. Well, the good news is if that's you, that's half of the population. So that means half of your Ridge group is going to be introverted. And if I'm in your Ridge group, I'm an introvert, so I'm going to be joining you in that whole experience. Here's another excuse that we have. I didn't have a great experience in my last group. If you've had a bad experience at a restaurant before, did you stop going to all restaurants because of that, or did you stop going to that restaurant because of it? Hopefully, just that restaurant. And listen, bad experiences in groups happen. I've had bad experiences in groups before as well. But you know what that means? I didn't stop group altogether. I just went to another group. And then here's the final one. I'm a guy. I don't need this. I am man, I build fire, I live in cave. Now listen, let me just speak to the guys because I are one, okay? Hopefully you know that one. So let me just speak to you as a guy for a minute. Listen, I don't gravitate towards this either. Every time I step into a group, you just have to know, I have to pretty much just push myself to get there because this doesn't become naturally for me as well. But let me just also say this. There is nothing like having the right people around you to spur you and encourage you on. It doesn't make you less of a man. It actually makes you more of a man. Because here's what you need to know. You need to be challenged and you need to be spurred on. And what you're going to find out is that as you allow that to happen and you do that for others, you're going to find out that you're a better dad, that you're a better husband, that you're a better leader, you're a better, and you just kind of fill in the blank. It doesn't make you less of a man. It actually experiences more of a man because you start to experience more of what God wants for you. So, once again, I want every single one of us in community. I want every single one of us in a Ridge group. And so if you're not in one, in a minute, Kelly's going to come up and tell us how to be in one in person, and Tyler's going to show you online and talk with you through what that means, look like to be in an online group of some way. But she's going to talk about, I want you to get in one. And if you were in one and then, you took a break in the summer, it's time to get the band back together again. And for some of you, you were in a group, but you feel like God is calling you to lead a new group of some kind. Maybe it's for a certain segment of people. Maybe it's for moms or couples or young adults, or maybe it's for those near retirement age. Whatever it may be, if that's you, Kelly can walk you through that. Tyler can as well. And that's great because you're allowing more people to be in community. I want this for everyone. And Donna and I are in the everyone. And here's what you need to know. You're not signing your life away. You're just signing away a few weeks this fall to take that step and try one. So let me put up the passage again that we just looked at from the writer Hebrews, who reminds us, let us hold unswervingly, because every single one of us has the tendency to swerve, to the hope we profess. For he who promised, he never swerves. And let us consider how we may encourage and spur and motivate and challenge one another towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, which is our tendency, and as some are in the habit of doing, and we've done that, so let's get that habit and build that community muscle again, but then encouraging one another all the more as you see the day approaching. Let me pray for us. Father, I just pray that of all the steps, God, that I have been praying over our church, over every single person, and it's a hard step, I get it. There's a lot there. God, I would just pray over our church that you would give every single person who is not connected in a group in some way to just take the step and just give it a couple weeks to try it out. And Father, I pray over our church that you would order the connections and the relationships and the groups, and you would set up friendships, and you would just set up meetings, and God, and they would all be ordered by you. This is my prayer, God, and I know this is your desire as well for every single one of us, because we can only go so far on our own. Following you is a team sport, and you know what? It's just better when we do it as a team. So, Father, thank you for the gift of community, and I just already celebrate what you're going to do, God, in our church because of the steps that are taken here, and we pray this in your name. Amen.
Well, as you heard from Mark, we want everyone to join a Ridge group this fall. In fact, my wife and I, we're taking this challenge, and we are actually starting a brand new Ridge group in our home. It's actually going to be for parents going through different stages of parenting right now. We're excited to see how God moves in that Ridge group. But we want you to take Mark's challenge and to join a Ridge group. And in fact, we want you to sign up before you're done with us today. And so here's how you can do that. Remember, we're committing to a group for this fall. So most groups are meeting for 6 to 8 weeks. And the easiest way that you can get started by joining a group is by scanning the QR code that you're going to see below me. Now, if you're watching on a phone or a tablet, if you're listening on a podcast and you don't have a QR code access, it's okay. It's very easy for you to do this as well. Just go to our Ridge app, and when you open up the app, on the top button, there's a button that says Find Your Group. Now, when you scan the QR code or when you open up the app, you click on Find a Group, and that's going to bring up what we call our Group Finder. And on this Group Finder, you're going to find several different options of groups. In fact, there are groups that are formed around different stages of life that you might be in. There are groups formed around different neighborhoods that you may live in. Maybe your different stages of faith and following Jesus. There's different opportunities for join a group there. There's other groups based on activities or interests. And if there's a group on the list that you're like, hey, you know what? I want to form a different group. We have an opportunity for you to form a group as well. Go to our group's webpage, and there's a button that you can say form a group. It'll walk you through the process there. But we have several different group options for you to sign up and do this. And so when you find a group on that group finder that you're interested in signing up for, here's what I want you to do. Just tap the button that says join a group. And then you can share a little of information about yourself, your name, your email address, and phone number. The reason why, the group leader of that group is going to be in touch with you soon to get you all the details that you need to know for your first group meeting, which is going to be during the first week of October. And so go ahead, take this challenge, build community. Let's build our faith and build others' faith by joining a group. Scan that QR code or visit on our app and sign up for a group right now. This is how we can build our faith and build others' faith as well. So I hope you take that challenge today. Well, another way that we build our faith is by giving generously to the vision of the Ridge, which is to bring the hope of Jesus into every home. And so right now, we're going to take a moment and we're going to give generously back to God so that we can help more people follow Jesus. There are several easy ways that you can do that. You can find out about those by visiting the website that you see below me. We're going to take a moment. We're going to give generously back to God, and then we're going to head back to our auditorium to join our band and to sing to God together. And during this time, I want you to ask God, hey, God, what group do you want me to be a part of? Go ahead, check them out, sign up for the group, and if you have any questions about groups, let us know in the chat or the comments, and we would be happy to answer any questions as we give and sign up for groups together right now.
I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive.
I raise a hallelujah with everything inside of me. I raise a hallelujah. I will watch the darkness flee. I raise a hallelujah in the middle of the mystery. I raise a hallelujah. Fear you lost your hold on me.
Well, I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive.
Sing a little louder.
In the presence of my enemies,
Sing a little louder.
louder than the unbelief.
Sing a little louder.
My weapon is a melody.
Sing a little louder.
Heaven comes to fight for me.
Sing a little louder.
In the presence of my enemies,
Sing a little louder.
louder than the unbelief.
Sing a little louder.
My weapon is a melody.
Sing a little louder.
Heaven comes to fight for me.
Sing a little louder.
I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, and King is alive. Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but He brought me in. Oh, His love for me. Oh, His love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Free at last, He has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, He
Well, thanks for doing that. And don't log off today before you join a Ridge group. In fact, here's another opportunity to scan that QR code and find the group finder. You can also get this on our app as well. And you can find the groups that are available, sign up for one. Remember, this is how we can beat isolation, build our faith, and build others' faith. And when we're doing this, we're partnering with God to fulfill his vision to bring the hope of Jesus into every home. And so go ahead and do that before you log off, and then make sure you join us next week as we continue the Great Disconnect. Thanks so much for joining us today. Have a great week.